record the meeting. Yes. Okay, so welcome. I am Katie. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a teen specialist at the Bonnie Lake Library. This is the first of the career interviews for Teen Volunteer League. Teen Volunteer League is a mentorship and leadership development program for Pierce County teens ages 14 to 18. In the past, this program has been held at each of our 20 library locations. Due to the pandemic, the program is now online. The teens in the program meet virtually over Zoom and Discord for 10 weeks over the summer. Over the course of the program, the teens engage in project-based creative work related to libraries, community, and reading. They also receive training and support for job skills and connect on issues of importance to them and their futures. TVL's big project this summer is called Career Interviews. The TVL members are interviewing workers in Pierce County about what they do and how they got to be where they are. The TVL members told us who they wanted to hear from, and we reached out. Today, we are interviewing Karl Cormack, who is a filmmaker, and I will let our teens introduce themselves and take over.
Hi, my name is Ava Monner. I go by she, her.
Hi, my name is Sophia Lana, and I go by she, they.
Hello, my name is Ethan Glenwello, and I go by he, him.
And I'm Sarah Strickland. I go by she, her.
And finally, I'm Karl Cormack. I go by he, him.
All right, our first question for you is, what sparked your interest in directing?
Oh boy. My interest in directing began when I was a little kid. Me and my cousins, when we got together, I always enjoyed having a theater or a stage to put something on, dress everyone up, and we'd reenact scenes from our favorite movies. As I got older, I started acting and directing in some of like the like local church plays and things like that. And I realized probably about my second year in college that although the major that I was pursuing at the time was something that I could do, it wasn't something that I really had like a desire to wake up every morning for and just like absolutely love every second of it. And so I decided to change my major. And at that point, um, I knew for sure that I wanted to be a director, but it was an inkling in the back of my mind for years that I didn't really grasp onto until there's just that pit in your stomach that tells you what you know you want to do. And that was the moment that I knew I wanted to be a director.
Yeah, thank you. What would you say is the difference between directing and filmmaking?
Ooh, the difference between directing and filmmaking. Filmmaking is very specific. The eye for filmmaking is very subtle. Directing can go in either way. If you want to be a theater director, it's not so much the subtleties of like the face or the eye motions, but it's very generalized gestures, making sure you have proper body posture, lighting, setting, all that stuff put together is directing. And filmmaking, I think, is much more specific into which scene, exactly what second you want to cut away to. Are you getting that emotion from a film that you could be able to get from a live stage performance? I think that's the difference between directing and filmmaking.
Okay, I think you already like briefly touched on this. Maybe you like want to go more into depth, but do you have any like past experiences with technology or writing?
Uh, Past experiences with technology and writing. Well, before I changed my major and I became well, I should preface this by saying I became a director with a concentration in writing and then filmmaking. So I really do enjoy the writing side of it. I never really had a strong desire to be the one in front of the camera, although it is fun. So the writing side, I always thought, if you can create the story that you like and that you want to tell, then you should do that because you can't necessarily be in it and direct it the way that you want it to look. As for writing technologies and things like that, I used Final Draft 10. That was probably one of my favorite programs to use. And other technologies for this short video that I used the other day, it is called VideoPad, and it's a free editor. And as you kind of jump around and use a couple free programs, you'll figure out what it is that works best for you. And if you have one already that works best for you, I would just get like the student-based program version of it, the cheapest you can find, and just keep working with it. A lot of professionals still use Final Draft 10, but it just depends on what you want to use.
What are some disciplines that you studied at ASU?
Um, okay. So for directing, it's very important that even if you don't have a strong grasp in every area, that you at least understand the language and you know how to speak to people. It's just like in any other profession, like if you were a tradesman, like a carpenter or whatever, you need to be able to speak with the folks around you, even if you don't know what it is that they specifically do. You need to have some general idea. So in directing, I took a few lighting classes. I took a few costume classes. um, I had to take a couple acting classes, and most of that is so that you understand the vocabulary that some of these folks use. It's just easier when you're talking to a lighting guy or a rigging guy to tell them what it is that you need if you understand what type of lighting cams they're using, or if you know exactly where you want the placement to be. It's a little bit easier. It makes their life easier, and it makes just the general environment on stage or on set, wherever you're at, easier, because they know that you're not just BSing with them. You're not just, talking out one side of your mouth and not really sure what you're doing. So I would say if you want to do directing, get a firm grasp of as many things as you can, but definitely when you find your concentration, what it is that you love to do, focus on that, heavily. And then, float by here and there, pick up some acting classes, pick up a couple of screenwriting classes if you're not a screenwriter. If you're an editor, if you really like editing, still take a couple of lighting classes or take a couple of set production classes. Figure out what it is that makes the whole place work together, and just try to put your hands in as many different, I guess, fires as you can, or put as many different irons, as many different fires as you can, so that you have a grasp of what's going on. I'm not a strong editor, but I took a couple editing classes because I realized that there's going to be a point where I'm not going to have my entire team with me. And when you do find those people that are better than you at those specific jobs, it's good to identify and hand off the reins and trust the people that you build around you.
All right, thank you. Our next project, or sorry, our next question is, what projects have you worked on?
Well, in college, for the theater side, I worked on a number of stage productions. There was one in particular that's fresh at my memory every single time I think of it. It's called The Hour That We Knew Nothing of Each Other, and it was truly an hour of nothing but stage production directions. There's no dialogue, no nothing, and so it truly was an interesting learning experience. And that one, I just flew panels in and out as part of the production crew, just backstage. The next production I worked on was Titus Andronicus, and I got to be the assistant set director for that. So I got to just kind of shadow the head director and figure out what it is that they're looking for when they have folks run lines, or what it is that I'm missing when they decide that they like certain striking better or certain blocking better. The third project in college that I worked on was I think it was called Our Kiki, and I was just the lighting assistant there. So I just helped rigging a couple lights, and then my senior year, I went and I was directing a number of music videos for some of my classmates, because a few of them had some really interesting ideas. I worked with a woman whose name was Sunena, and she Sunena Tandon. I should give her full credit. And she created an exercise that's a mix between belly dancing and twerking called Twerkiendo. And it was truly the very first of her kind. And we decided to have our music video shot down in the deserts of Mexicali. So we shot about 5 hours from Phoenix. So we drove out in the middle of the night. We got that sunrise shot, and it took us about 6.5 hours to get all the filming in. And then sleep deprived, we drove back to Phoenix, and we spent the next weekend editing it. Um, I really wish I could have showed you guys that. Unfortunately, Sunana has taken it offline for the moment. I'll see if I can get her to find a private link for it and share it with you guys. So I'd really like you to see it. It was a fun video. But those were the most recent ones I'd worked on. After that, I'd come up here from Arizona to Washington shortly before COVID hit, and then I just ended up working almost every day just to kind of make ends meet. And so now I have a couple of projects down the pipeline. This interview definitely helped get my feet out from underneath the workload and kind of get working on my projects again. Unfortunately, it is difficult to get going in this industry. So when you have time to work on it, make sure that you take those opportunities because they come very briefly, but the work is so rewarding that when you get those videos out, it's amazing. Right now, I have a project that I'm working on making a short black and white film about a story called The Hanging Man. You guys could look it up. I'm blanking on the moment the name of the author, but it's kind of like a thriller horror movie from or a horror short story from like the early 1900s, and it's just something that I think would be a fun little project. Not something I'm going to take super seriously, but I'm definitely going to put a lot of time and effort into it. And if you're looking for places to find projects or find inspiration, don't be afraid to read stories that you know or think of are kind of abstract and put your own spin on it. Good storytellers borrow, great storytellers steal really cleverly. So just come and grab different pieces of stories that you know are definitely worth your time. And if you feel you have an interesting take on it, go for it.
Eh,
That's it. The Hanging Stranger by Philip K. Dick. Thank you, Ethan.
yeah. So how would you say that going to Arizona State has influenced your projects now?
Ooh, I I'd say that my time at Arizona State was very formative for me. In high school, we didn't have much of a theater production anything. We had enough money to put on one pantomime my sophomore year in high school in 2010, and after that we had it cut. So I really wanted something to teach me and give me the ins and outs of theater. And when I switched my major, it was like being rammed through 4 years of high school theater in like 2.5, and then deciding what it is that I want to do. As far as how it formed me, there were a lot of really amazing little tricks and tools that I took from college. I took this teaching theater class, and in it, one of our exercises was for writer's block. If you ever have a moment where you're unsure what to write or you're not sure where the story is going to go, but you have the emotional feeling, a really neat trick is to find a song that embodies that feeling, plug into it, and then just start free writing whatever you have, even if it's nonsense. Start free writing some lines, some dialogue, just some stage direction, some settings, and those can often take you in a really wonderful and new direction. So that's something that I'd say that I took from college. Another thing I took was to, critically ask what always is the objective for these characters that I'm writing for. Sometimes folks just write stuff and they're not sure where they're going with it. So it's important to know the direction that you're taking your character, but also the direction that the overall story is going, because they might truly believe in one moment that they're doing something, and in the next do the exact opposite and truly believe in it. And you have to really figure out how you're going to thread that needle of they're doing nothing or they're flip-flopping or you're truly making a difficult decision for them. Um, it wasn't all easy. It was very difficult. Like I said, I had to be rammed through about 4 years of high school education in theater in about 2.5. Um, but it was really worthwhile. I'd say it taught me to take the time to look at the full picture as well as the individual characters playing in that picture.
Okay, so do you prefer working independently or with others? And then what are the benefits that come along with working independently or with others?
Okay, the benefits. Let's go for benefits first. Benefits working by yourself, you get to call the hours. You get to figure out when you're working, how late you're working. You don't have to ask someone if they need a break to eat or if they want to go to sleep or, hey, kick me out because we've been in the same room for 12 hours and we haven't been together this long since grade school. That's the benefit of working by yourself. The downside is that you have to do everything by yourself. You have to frame every shot by yourself. You have to make sure they're consistently in the same place. You have to do all that editing, which can be really monotonous. And at times, if you don't have someone in there, it just feels like the worst thing in the world. But you get over it. I isolated like I have been this last during I don't know 18 months of the pandemic in my tiny home. It's really hard to get yourself motivated when you're working solo. So as much as I did work, I feel like, excuse me, if I did have a team around me, I would have gotten much more work done. Um, the upside to working in groups is that you can really rely on one person to focus on something that your mind doesn't have to take up the space or the energy worrying about. You can um, I'm blanking on the word. You can give different tasks out to different folks, not have to necessarily worry about it. Or if you have one of you that's better at editing, they can do the editing. Someone who's a better cinematographer than you, they can take care of the shots. Someone who is really good at sound design and audio, they can make sure everyone's mic'd up properly. There are things that I am not as educated in as I wish I was. I wish I knew more about sound design. It was something that I didn't pick up enough classes in. And that's something that's really, really important in your filming and your short stories and just storytelling in general. Sound is a big thing that people forget about. It's like listening to a song and there's no bass line. You don't realize it's there till someone takes it out and you hate that song. It's boring. It feels bland. Um, so the best part about working in groups is that everyone has something to bring to the table. The downside is that everyone has something to bring to the table. So you need to be firm with your no's and you need to be flexible with your yeses. You're not going to get everything that you want in the story. You're going to have some of your ideas thrown out, but that's okay because some of the ideas that come in are much, much better. And that's the whole reason why you're asking someone else. It's kind of like the theory of asking in an interview someone of where they keep their ketchup. Some folks keep it in their fridge, some folks keep it in their cupboards. And depending on if you're out of ketchup, the folks that keep it in the fridge or keep it in the cupboard, they're going to reach for a different, topping for their sandwich or whatever it is they're making. And that's the idea that you want. You want people that think outside the box differently than you, but you also want some people that also see what you're seeing so that you have a sounding board for yeses and a sounding board for nos.
What is the filmmaking community like at ASU and in Phoenix?
Oh boy. Everyone is really, really kind, really excited to be working, and there's no lack of sharing your projects. Everybody wants to be in everybody's work. They're all excited to see what you have to do, and they're all excited to see how it turns out. Um, I had a number of friends that, although we were all in the theater major, they had different concentrations. Some of them were movement and dance concentrations. Others were, like I said, lighting or set design, set production. But everyone was so excited to lend a hand and give the knowledge that they knew, and I was really grateful for that. And surprisingly, for the size of the school of Arizona State, my class, I think between all of us in the entire theater department was probably less than about 40 or 50. And so you get a close bond with these people. Um, I will say that directing theater people is sometimes like herding cats. It's difficult. They're all wanting to do their own thing, and they all have very big um, eh, um, they have very big attitudes or emotions, or just they're great people, but sometimes they can be big. And it's like, you're a great hang, but I can hang out with you for maybe about 3-4 hours tops, then I need to go take a break and hang out solo. But they're great people. And I feel like that's just the theater community in a whole. They're very supportive, and they always want to make sure that if they have something to lend, they're lending you the best of themselves.
If you could be based in any location, where would it be?
Ooh, in any location? That's wow, that's a really hard question. So I've thought about this a lot. For a comedy, if you're trying to be a stand-up comic, or if you're trying to like shoot some comedies, I'd say Chicago is one of the best places you could be. Unfortunately, I haven't made my way over there yet, but I have a lot of my friends that are comics and they're loving their life there, and I'm a little bit jealous of that. Um, if you're wanting to shoot for, a production company that has, lots of work coming through, but they're not relatively big budgets, Vancouver and over in Ontario, those two places, they have big production companies, and they're known for keeping it on a low budget side. So if you want to see how to make a good project on a low budget, that would be the place to go. And I would love to work in Canada one day. I mean, for me, I just think it's beautiful up there. Um, right now, I'd say there's going to be, and this is fingers crossed, but from what I understand, there's going to be a pretty decent boom in the film industry down in the Santa Fe area. I was down there a couple years ago, and I was talking to one of the head of the union members for his for the IATSE, the International Film Association folks. And or yeah, I'm not sure how that one goes, excuse me, but he was saying that they were a big town at one point, and once they start getting work back down there, it's going to be picking up again. And I've been hearing that since COVID's been shutting down a lot of different places, and they can't travel a whole lot, New Mexico is looking like it might be the next new place. So I I would keep my eyes open, and it's really difficult to know where you want to work. You just work where you can. The beautiful thing about film, theater, comedy, whatever you want to do, there's places in every city all across this country that love seeing it and love having it. Um, so if you just have a project, it's just finding a place that you can make it work. We've seen TV shows where they claim Colorado, or yeah, they claim Colorado is really California where they're filming. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's just the story that you want to tell and the people you can find in that area. Some places are a little more densely populated than others. Graham, Washington's probably not the best place to be looking for a bunch of folks. Seattle might be a little easier. New York, you will find a bunch of people there, but then again, there's a lot of opportunities for them. So it's hit or miss if you're going to find dedicated and consistent work. Um, I have a couple friends in LA right now, and they're getting some work doing just background acting jobs. So it depends on where you're at and what you're willing to do, but you can find the work wherever you go.
So, what media do you currently write? So, what media do you currently write scripts for? And then I was just gonna follow that and say, what media would you like to write scripts for in the future?
Oh, okay. So right now I'm currently writing. Um, Actually, I guess the answer might be both the same thing. I would love to write for a streaming series or something like that, and I actually have a couple of scripts right now that are pilot episodes for two different concepts that, I mean, fingers crossed and my dreams come true, I could work for like Hulu or Netflix for the rest of my life just writing on a series. That would be my dream gig. Even directing for them, that would be awesome. So right now I'm writing for TV scripts, which are a little bit quicker, but they're a little bit more difficult because you don't have the same amount of time as if you want to take a whole year to write for a movie. You only have like a week or so at a time. So I have a couple pilots written, and then I have a few episodes past that, if I ever find a way to pitch these to some folks, that's where I would like to go with my life. So yeah, right now I'm writing for TV or film, even though I mainly started working in theater in college. But yeah, that's where I would like to end up.
So who's your favorite director if you have one?
Oh, favorite director. That to me is like asking who my favorite band is at the time. It's gonna change a little bit. I do have favorite directors that do like really, really good work. If I'm talking about comedy, I think Mel Brooks is one of the funniest directors out there. At times his work is a little inappropriate and you have to, put like a filter on what you see and what you hear. But he is really a really funny director, really great director. Current guys, Ron Howard's a really great director. A lot of folks don't really like his stuff, but I seem to really love his stuff. I oftentimes find myself watching some of his movies. I don't even realize it. Who else? For those big movies, people don't like him, but I like him. I think Michael Bay's great. I think if you're really trying to see a movie where you can do a bunch with CGI and do it well, I think Michael Bay is one of the guys that you want to look at. But for independent directors, it changes all the time. I couldn't tell you right now. I haven't seen anything recently other than The Lighthouse. Roger Eggers, I'm not sure how you say his last name. He's great. He'll put a mental spin on you for a couple days, but I really like his stuff.
What's your favorite part of filmmaking?
Oh, my favorite part of filmmaking. There's a couple of really great parts I love about it. My first has to be like the in the moment after you've written and you've planned everything and you start shooting and you have like just random idea after random idea of like, hey, this would be a funny gag, this would be a funny bit. And even if it never makes it into anything that you're making, like just having that moment where you're just messing around with someone and then like you see it played back and seeing it played back is even funnier than you would imagine and you just spend 3 or 4 minutes just laughing, probably one of my favorite parts. Um I love comedy. Comedy is probably my favorite thing. um but I've been finding myself recently writing tragedies and dramas, so I'm not quite sure what that's about. But my favorite part about filmmaking has to be like it's those shared moments of levity where even though it's really serious and you're trying to get everyone focused, like, hey guys, I know we're together and know we're hanging out, but let's get to work. There's still those moments where you can joke around and have that like everyone stops what they're doing and you're just laughing because that shot or that look in that one frame after he said something or after she said something and like the way they look right at them is just so much funnier than what I'd predicted. That's probably my favorite part. My least favorite part is finding all that unused video in a file that you never got to use years later.
I have another question that we didn't have written down, but I'm curious if you have any experience with like film festivals or really how to make connections.
Okay, so I haven't found myself at a film festival yet. I would love to. But I have submitted a couple of my screenwriting or my playwriting pieces to like the Kennedy Center up in Alaska. I think they have like a little festival where you can submit 10-minute scripts, 3-minute scripts, even up to like full one act plays, and they'll give you a uh, what's the word? They'll give you a grant, they'll fly you out there, and you'll even get to direct a small performance, everything out in public. And it's a pretty good idea to get young writers out and out and about, and also have the idea of what it's like to go to a festival. I didn't quite make it, but I was a finalist, so that's fun and disappointing at the same time. As for making connections, it's really about, unfortunately who you know, but also fortunately who you know. A lot of people want to make sure that the folks that they know and the folks that they love are going to get work. So, so as long as you keep that in mind and you keep a really open heart and you treat people kindly, they are going to treat you kindly in return. If you give your all to something and it turns out well, or just all right, they will remember that. And folks call other people. They will call you up because you did right by them. People don't call people that fail them. People call people that they can depend on, they trust. So as long as you can put your best foot forward and you try your hardest, I promise you, people are going to want to give you those opportunities. They're going to want to see you succeed. Um, so that just comes down to the networking and the communications. Talk to as many people as you can. If you go to college for this, talk to as many people as you can there. Make sure you have cards to just say your name on it. I know it seems really old school, but like everyone I know, we all have cards. We all have like a website. They all have some type of deal where you can get a hold of them, even if it's not like super official. It's just like, hey, this is where you can find me and you can get a hold of me. Here's a couple things that I did. Um, I still have cards from some folks in college that one of my buddies is an editor, and talking about this right now makes you want to send him a text to see where he's at. He's a good guy. I just haven't talked to him in a while. But when these folks come up in your head and they pop up, just send them a text, send them a message, just say, hey, just thinking about you. Have no idea if they were thinking about you too, or if there's something that is in their pipeline that they might need you for. You have no idea. So just talk to whoever's out there. Folks are going to need help, just like me. This last video was just me and my best buddy, and we kept making comments. Man, we really could use a sound person. Like we're not sound people. So if one of my buddies who was a sound guy sent me a text, I would have been so relieved. But I know they're not in Seattle, so I couldn't help them out, or they couldn't help me out. But the idea is that you want to have these relationships where they just text you up, or you can text them up, and they're like, hey, I was thinking about you, or I have this thing that I think you would be good for. And it really does work out like that a lot.
We're kind of off script because we're out of questions, but I'm still going in the order that we did because I
Yeah, go
also have
for it.
another question. So I'm someone who gravitates towards like cinematography. What kind of like visual elements do you like in your films? Are there like outdoors versus indoors things, aesthetics you enjoy, anything you gravitate towards on that front?
Oh man, this is a good question. I was just thinking about this last night. So I was coming home and I was grabbing something out of my car, and I was walking toward my tiny house. Now, it I haven't described this much to you guys, but I built a tiny house inside of an old barn. Like it's like a 1920s barn. So it's kind of sketchy at times. And when I first moved in there, I was really freaked out. Like it's got total horror movie vibes. And since then, I was totally over it. And as I was grabbing this out of my car, I was grabbing like my bag out of my car. I locked it and it was completely black, and the lights from my car had lit up. And I just thought, what'd be really messed up but scary is if there's just a guy there just flashed for a second. And I was like, oh, that would be good. That'd be a good shot. That kind of stuff. That's what I think is good cinematography. Like you can have a horror movie that's not like everything's like pop out at you. It can just be really subtle. Like even if the lighting on that shot was super dark and only like 3 people in the whole theater saw this guy like just hanging out for like a split second that your car lights up, that would be good cinematography. Or just those close-up shots where you can just really see like just the pores in some guy's face, and you can see exactly how he's feeling in the exact moment. The Hateful Eight is really good for that. Tarantino, another great director. Can't believe I didn't think of him. Come on now. Um, but yeah, there are some great moments, or just great things that cinematography captures, and their cinematographers themselves, they capture. And it makes me wish that I had done a little bit more in college to learn about that. I learned about the exact placing of it, because there's so many times where I'm like, man, I wish I could get this shot. I just don't know how to get it. I need to talk to someone who knows how to give me this shot. Um, but yeah, cinematography wise, like it's those subtleties. It's just the hue of the darkness just slightly shading out someone to only a handful of folks seeing it. Or you really get that close, crisp close up. My words are stumbling a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I think that is probably my favorite thing about it, is just when you can feel an emotion through the camera, you know you nailed it.
Okay, anybody else have any last minute? We've been going here for about half an hour, so. Okay, nobody's jumping on.
All
I'm gonna
right.
guess no. Thank you so much,
All good.
Carl. This
Of
was
course, you're
awesome.
welcome. Sorry about that confusion with my name.
Oh,
I'm
no
just gonna slip
worries.
it back for my buddy here as we go. But
No problem.
thank you so much. If there's anything else or any questions, I know Ethan outside of, this Zoom meeting. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask him if you guys talk independently from this, and maybe he can send them my way. But yeah, it's good to talk to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.